Hi, welcome to the Frugal Frau. I'm Suki, your host, and today we're going to make this rail for a door panel. And the rail, or the door panel itself, would be the proper nomenclature, is recessed because this part here fits into the doorway opening. And what we're also going to show you how to do is how to make this groove, how to make this rabbet, how to make this roundover, and you don't need any fancy tools to do this. You do not need a shaper or a router. However, you will need some hand planes, and so you'll need a grooving plane for this groove, a roundover plane for this roundover, and the rabbet plane for this rabbet. And why are we going to all this trouble with hand tools? Well, we have an 18th century cabinet and we built a cabinet above it so the whole thing looks like a big monolithic built-in cabinet, and we wanted to at least attempt to copy the door panels and door frames and style of that cabinet. So here's a hinge. It goes into the rabbet because that door also has this little hinge that is recessed. These hinges aren't exactly like the ones in the 18th century cabinet because we were unable to locate any of those. Now, there are lots of advantages, of course, to using hand tools. They're quiet. You can use them in any kind of a small space, even an apartment. They produce a lot less dust, and they don't require nearly the investment or electricity that power tools require. So lots of advantages there, and we just wanted to show you that it can be done without fancy equipment and less expensively too. So before we get started though, please like, subscribe, and comment because it helps the channel out and we do appreciate it. Thank you very much. First, square off both edges of your board. Tom is using his jack plane for this. You could use a smoothing plane. It's just your preference. And note that he has a small tri-square on the bench, and he uses that to periodically check for square. After squaring off both edges of the board, Tom will be using his grooving plane first to cut the groove, as shown in this picture. We always run our grooving plane with the fence against the back side of the board. We do it this way because we always measure things from the back side of the board when it comes to board depth. And by doing this, we can reduce the chance for making mistakes. Tom is just about finished cutting the groove, and you can tell that you're just about done because at this point, there will be very little being cut off, and at the very end, you will not cut off anything because the depth of the blade will have reached the depth set by the depth guide on this particular plane. Tom has flipped the board over and he will be using his rabbet plane next to cut the rabbet. Once again, the fence of the rabbet plane is against the back side of the board. Tom's rabbet plane comes from Veritas, and it is a very nice rabbet plane. There are other styles of rabbet planes, and they will all work equally well. Some rabbet planes do not have a fence, but the fence does make it much easier to make sure your rabbet is always cut to the same width. This rabbet is almost complete, and Tom is just smoothing out a little bit. And once he gets this rabbit complete, he will use our hinge and check it and make sure it fits correctly, as it is a hinge designed to fit into a rabbit, and it fits perfectly, so we are happy. Flip the board around, and now it's time to cut the roundover section of this rail. Tom will be using his antique roundover plane for this purpose, and you can see the roundover profile here. And on this picture, you can see the actual curve of the blade. Tom is just demonstrating how he draws reference marks. Most often he does this for roundovers. He has a special way of holding the pencil between his thumb and his forefinger, and this just keeps the line parallel to whatever edge his forefinger is writing against. Tom is now drawing the reference line where he's going to cut the roundover on this particular rail for the antique door that we are trying to match. You can see, of course, that it's above the rabbit, and it shows on the front side, or the facing side of the rail, that faces outward. Because again, the rabbit, of course, was cut so that the other part of the frame would sit inside the door frame opening. This roundover plane does not match exactly the profile that we're looking for this project. And a roundover plane doesn't have to do that. All you have to do is use your reference line at the top to start your cut, and that's kind of where the edge of the blade is going, and then move the plane gradually down as you cut, as Tom is doing here, and it's actually moving it towards the front face of this rail. And that's to get a more sharper profile than this would cut. And as you get experienced with using roundover planes like this, whether they're antique or new, you'll find that you don't need 20 different sizes. You can finesse the cut by just moving the plane down along the edge that you're cutting. And in this plane, sometimes little bits of wood shavings get stuck between the blade and the throat, so Tom used his little bench knife to clean it out. And that is necessary if you want to keep your blade cutting nice and smoothly. And to smooth off the roundover, he just picked up some wood shavings to burnish the whole thing, and that actually gets quite a little bit of the little ditzels and debris off of it. That makes a nice smooth finish on the roundover. And he's done. In another video, we show you how we make our basic door panels. We did a video on a basic flat panel door, but we always use the same joinery to join the rails and the stiles, as well as putting in the panels. We always use a half blind tenon for attaching the rails and the stiles together, and we always use a groove for the panel, be it a flat panel or a raised panel, as we did in this door. I made this design for this particular door, and we will show you how I painted it in another video. I drew this just the other day, and I decided I wanted birds, so it's going to get birds. And here I have another view of the door panel assembled, and you can see the roundover and the recessed part of the frame. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment.